What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is TeamB Wrestling Show. Bill Mack here, going with your WWE Raw and Smackdown Live results show. Bullaby is busy doing things right now, and he's unable to uh, go on. But we're going to go on and do the very best we can without him, and can't wait back to have him back soon. So um, we'll jump right into the results show. First off, we have the new era. Let me just say this before we get started into the results and stuff. WWE did their background, their typical brand split last week. We didn't do a show dealing with the brand split. I just felt like everybody else was doing it, and so I really didn't diverge too much into that and didn't want to get too much into it. So I just wanted to say my comments on it before we get into the show. I felt that it was a good way to kick off SmackDown Live on being live on the USA Network on Tuesdays. Now I think that's a good thing that they are live. If they've been on the air for so long, it was about time for them to put on a live show and have it make it feel more of an impact than just being taped on Tuesday and played on Friday. It's actually happening live and everything's happening at the beginning of the week, which makes it a good. So the first part of the week is a wrestling filled week. So that's great for a wrestling fan that loves wrestling. And so I thought it was a good idea. I thought the draft was highly rated, which was expected because nobody knew. Well, we all basically had an idea of where everybody was going. We basically had some kind of some different choices at the end. But hey, it is Raw, it is SmackDown. Raw is the flagship show. It's the 3 hour show. In my opinion, they got more of the stars. They got the Seth Rollins, which was their number one pick. He didn't have the title, but he's just as good. And then you had the U.S. champion Rusev, and you had the women's champion Charlotte, and plus the cruiserweight division is going to be made exclusively for Raw. So you think and look by the way it's stacking up. Really, all SmackDown has is they've got the WWE champion, plus they got the Intercontinental Championship, but they don't have the other belts. I mean, they're short of belts. I think WWE they also Raw has the tag team titles. That mean exclude them. So really, you look at it and you're like, what basis are you going to have? I mean, does SmackDown stack up against when you've got all the champions just about there that they have, and you look at SmackDown, you have a lot of the lesser known guys, but how well are they going to get pushed? And two is you look at the situation and you see that they're having a lot of newer guys come in, or a lot of older guys coming in that used to be on there to come make SmackDown. So if you're saying they're equal branding, then why do you need to have veterans and older guys come back in that were relevant in the Attitude Era, but they're coming back now? As instance tonight in SmackDown Live is when we get into that one, we'll discuss it. But and Dean Ambrose, unfortunately, kept the title, which I was shocked he was going to keep the title at SmackDown Live last week for the title to remain on SmackDown for them to have a title. So Stephanie and Mick weren't too happy about that. Mick Foley was chosen Raw general manager, and Daniel Bryan was chosen general manager over on SmackDown. So that leads us right into this weekend, first edition of the new era of WWE Raw. And honestly, the show was pretty decent. It was kind of an old school with some debuts and some surprises, and I thought it was a really good show. The show, of course, opened up with Mick Foley and Stephanie in the ring, and she was kind of upset that she felt like Roman had lost their chance at having the WWE title. So they felt like they would have a pair of fatal four-way matches later in the night, and the winner of each of those fatal four-way matches would meet each other in the main event for that night, and the winner of that would go on to SummerSlam and face their number one pick, Seth Rollins, in a match for a new championship. And you thinking they're going to call it the World Heavyweight Championship because WWE, the other title is now the WWE Championship. But No, they're starting to play off this WWE Universe thing, and they're calling it the WWE Universal title, which I think is a stupid name because it doesn't sound like a name of a real legitimate title. A Universal title, that sounds kind of like the one you would make up in a WWE 2K game, or the Indies would have there. But I guess it must going to be a newer belt, and so we're going to see now basically how that works out, how the belt looks. I imagine they already have it designed and all, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny that they named it the Universal title, but they're just trying to play off the WWE Universe and say, this is for you. It's no longer about the world, but it's about the universe. So they're trying to market that off of it. So that's cool. But so we end up, when Stephanie makes that announcement, she introduces everyone, and I'll give you the order and as the matches go along, who was in those matches. So one of those matches would start off, and surprisingly enough, Kevin Owens, Rusev, Cesaro, and the first NXT pick from NXT, Finn Balor, all four were chosen to begin this night off of WWE Raw. It was a great match. It was his debut, and a lot of back and forth, a lot of showing his Finn Balor's perseverance being underweighted and stuff in this matchup, because here you have Rusev, Cesaro, and Kevin Owens, all dynamite guys, all main event level guys, and it all comes down to showing off with Finn and why he was their first NXT choice, and it ends up, irony enough, Finn Balor wins. He hits the coup de grace on Rusev and pins Rusev clean. So that was a good matchup. Up next, we've seen another debut from NXT. This is for the women's division. This is Nia Jax, and this was a typical old school match where you have someone debut, and instead of it being a transition wrestler that they wrestle, they basically put her in against a jobber, and this was more than once that happened tonight over some girl named Britt Baker, which she wasn't part of the women's division, and they didn't mention her over that, but you wanted Nia Jax to make a dynamite debut and strong, and I mean, she looked strong. I mean, she was throwing poor Britt Baker all over the ring and just manhandling or woman handling her. And, it was a good, and she ended up winning the matchup. It was basically a squash match with Baker, and she ended up winning with a leg drop. So I know Hulk Hogan would have been proud of that. So, but great debut for Nia Jax. She looked very strong and looks to be a force to reckon with the WWE Women's Division adding to that. So congrats to Nia Jax for that. Up next, we have the second of the main event of the the Fatal 4-Way matchups for the slot to be in the main event to face Finn Balor in the main event for the Universal title against Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. And Roman Reigns was one of the contenders against Sami Zayn, Sheamus, and Chris Jericho. And you could kind of look at it and tell in this matchup and these chosen ones who was going to win. I mean, come on, folks. It was obvious, and I'll get to a little point about the winner in a minute. But it was basically a good matchup. I mean, I thought it was a lot of near falls. Jericho worked really well this matchup. I thought Sheamus and Sami Zayn fought pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good fought matchup, and the ending saw Roman Reigns pin Jericho after hitting a spear, which we all expected that to happen. And Roman Reigns moves on to face Finn Balor in our main event, and the winner of that goes on to meet Seth Rollins for the WWE Universal Championship. So up next, we see New Day come out, and New Day, as you know, broke the WWE record for longest title WWE Tag Team Championship title reign. That was held by London, I believe London and Kendrick, I believe was the two that had previously had it. And it was funny because they were in the ring celebrating, and this fan, they wanted to pick a fan to become an honorary member of the New Day for that night. And so they were going around the ring and trying to find somebody. Well, to find this guy called Sonny Boy, which I thought was funny. And he was, they said, well, you come on in the ring. So Sonny Boy comes out of the crowd and stuff, and they're cheering, and he gets in the ring, and they start asking him what's his name, if he does this, what do they call him? And every time they try to get him to this, they thought he was joking, but he said his name was Sonny Boy. So they were just having fun and with it, and they started doing the whole New Day Rocks thing, and that was turn out all of a sudden the club literally come out of nowhere, and they hit New Day and just decimated New Day. So you can see this feud, which I think is a good feud, and I see the club is potentially taking those titles from New Day. But needless to say, they were attacked, and it says that they ended up blowing their nose in New Day's jackets, and they found where Sonny Boy was standing once he got out of the ring. As New Day was getting attacked, he got back to his seat, and they showed the club taunting him and talking smack to him and throwing New Day's jacket at him. So I guess that was just at a fans thing that they done that. But hey, to each their own. Up next up, we see a matchup here for the WWE Women's Championship. So they're having, seems like their championship matches tonight. Wanted to start off Raw in a big way. Sasha Banks takes on Charlotte. I felt like this was a good matchup. Overall, Sasha got really good pop in the match. Charlotte, of course, got the heat, and it was a good back and forth matchup between the two women. And we see that Sasha Banks did at one point an Eddie Grove fake out during the match to get Dana Brooke ejected from the ring, because Dana Brooke had been following Charlotte ever since both got drafted to Raw. Not together, but they were both separately drafted to Raw. So Dana Brooks had to leave and kind of made it a more even matchup. And we see that Dana Brooks, after she leaves the ring, we see that Banks ends up getting the win by making Charlotte tap out to the bank statement to become the new WWE Women's Champion. So this was tendency to happen, and you would have loved to have seen it, on a pay-per-view or something. But hey, it was the first new era of Night of Raw, and they wanted to kick off in a big way, and it was deservingly, Charlotte had it since September, so it was about time for Sasha to get it. So congratulations on Sasha getting this win and becoming the new women's champion. And she thanked the crowd when she was interviewed. Very happy to get the title. Said she worked very hard in trying to get it. So congratulations to her. Up next, we see Braun Strowman come out with a new look. He's got his hair kind of pinned back and tightened everything. Same look, though, with his outfit and stuff. I thought they might have changed that, but still the same black tank top and grayish, greenish, olive-colored pants as he always wears. But it just was, again, another squash matchup. It really wasn't like Braun Strowman really needed a squash matchup, because we already know how strong he really is. But I don't even remember the jobber's name. And even in the reports they call it just a jobber. So it was a squash matchup, and he ends up defeating the jobber with a reverse choke slam. So Braun Strowman is on Raw. Most of the Wyatts are on SmackDown. So they're trying to push him as being a big monster. And I could see that happening if they create him in the right way. Like another Kane, but without the mask. So, I thought it was pretty good. Up next, we see this long promo segment with Enzo Amore and Big Cass as they were talking in the ring. And then the Shining Stars, Epico, and Primo come out. They interrupt them, and then it's a matchup where we see it going back and forth, and pretty much you see Big Cass and Enzo dominating the matchup, of course, with Primo and Epico being very small. Nobody really caring about them as a tag team and coming back after all those vignettes and stuff they done over the early summer and stuff to bring them in. So very sad waste of talent there. But it ends up where Shining Stars are actually on the winning end so far, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we see Golden Truth Ron Killings and which is R-Truth, for those that don't know, and Goldust come out of nowhere, and it's like the whole night they'd been playing Pokemon Go, and they end up walking through the middle of the ring and distracting Primo and Epico, and Primo and Epico is looking around, looking outside, wondering what they're doing, and this allows Big Cass to recover and get the big boot to get the win. So we see that, Enzo Amore and Big Cass pick up the win. They're deservingly so. They're a force to be reckoned with in the tag team division. So congratulations to them on there. And finally, folks, the main event of the night, or not the main event of the night, but yeah, it is the main event of the night. Excuse me. Get all caught up and everything. Main event of the night, we see Finn Balor come out, and one note about Balor is that he had the Finn Balor Club symbol on the Titantron, or on the Raw screen, and it was just amazing today we're going to use the Balor Club symbol, because he had so much history with the ends with the club, when in New Japan over the Balor Club there. So interesting enough, he had that symbol out. So he goes and faces Roman Reigns, and if you got an opinion like I did, you probably felt like, well, Roman's going to get the win. And he's going to face Rollins. And so we end up seeing it was a really good matchup. Roman dominated a lot of matchup, but Finn kept him off his feet quite a bit with a lot of kicks on the outside up against the barrier, high flying stuff. Roman kept trying to get him, near falls that Roman did with the Superman punch, and you seen Balor kick out, not give up, and you're thinking, well, at least he's getting, even if he loses, he's still got a really good debut. But surprisingly enough, he hits the coup de grace on Roman Reigns, and he ends up getting the 1-2-3 pin clean on Roman Reigns, and he's going to face, as we see Seth Rollins looking on in kind of disbelief that Finn Balor is making his debut, and Finn Balor is going to be facing Seth Rollins for that WWE Universal title at SummerSlam. So amazing love, but just a side note on Roman Reigns. I've been reading that Vince has fell out of favor since the failed drug test. So Roman may have lost tonight, just like he did on SmackDown Live, being the one pinned clean by Dean Ambrose as either punishment, or Vince may have lost favor in him being a heavy, the champion. But I still disagree, because I feel like Vince could, Roman just needs to turn heel. He's got the beard going for him, for that heel turn. So I was kind of looking for him maybe to talk smack to Finn Balor or turn on Finn Balor, but no, he was like, well, I hope he beats Seth, and then I'll get my shot again. So that's how basically Raw ended, was with Finn Balor standing victorious over Roman Reigns and going on to SummerSlam and meeting Seth Rollins for the WWE Universal title. So that was all basically of Raw. The rating was one of the highest. I don't have the rating right now. I know it's one of the highest rated shows in probably 10 years. So congrats to them. You can only wonder if SmackDown will come anywhere close to that. Knowing the roster, probably not. But that's for me to wait and see. Maybe creative can make a more wrestling show out of it, like Cesaro was talking about. So for right now, that's all of the Raw results for 7/25. We'll now go right into SmackDown and talk about SmackDown Live and what happened there. And as we dive right on into SmackDown Live, we see that the Commissioner Shane McMahon, and we see the General Manager Daniel Bryan in the ring, and they have the whole SmackDown roster out, and that they're going to announce in their own way tonight that they're going to have a #1 contender, and they're going to have what they call a 6-pack challenge to see who will be in that number, to determine the #1 contender. And they announced the 5 participants, which were John Cena, of course, Bray Wyatt, Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin, AJ Styles, and then they would have a battle royal, and whoever would win the battle royal would be that seat's participant. So they're a different way of getting a #1 contender for SummerSlam, but that is a great thing to do, is have it a different way. You don't want fatal 4-way matches on both shows. So good way to have that matchup going. We'll see how the rest of SmackDown goes after that. So we see that the Battle Royal goes along, and we finally see that there are 2 remaining participants, and it comes down to Apollo Crews and Kane. You have one from the Attitude Era, one from the New Era. And surprisingly enough, Apollo Crews wins the Battle Royal and he becomes the 6th participant in the 6-pack challenge to determine a #1 contender to face Dean Ambrose at SummerSlam. So congratulations to Apollo Crews for being that 6th participant. Good to see him get a push, and he's deserving of it. He just needs to get his promos, and I think he'll do a great job there on SmackDown and getting pushed. Up next, we have a matchup in the women's division, Becky Lynch versus Natalya, and as we see, this is a rematch from the Battleground pay-per-view that happened, and Becky actually forced Natalya to win to tap out to the Disarmer, and it's good news for Becky Lynch. For the longest time during her feud the last month or so, poor old Becky's been getting hit behind, been losing, been tapping out. Everything happened, and it's just all funny that you see that happen to Becky when Becky's getting a push. Maybe they're just saying, hey, she's, maybe they're just making her the underdog like they did at Daniel Bryan to come through. So we're going to see how that happens with the pay-per-view and with the women's division, on how that's going to work out with them. And then after the matchup, of course, we see outcomes. Alexa Bliss and Naomi and Carmella making her SmackDown debut, along with Eva Marie reappearing back on SmackDown since they were all drafted. They came out to talk about the women's division supremacy and them there, which really, folks, it's really not that supremacy on SmackDown. Like I said, Raw's got the most talent in the women's division on their show, and we see who they called up from NXT, those to be the women's side on SmackDown. So we'll see what happens on SmackDown. I'm more of a pro SmackDown because it's more of the underdog show, but it is for what it is. We see Miz attempting to interview himself on Miz TV, but out once again we see the Apex Predator, Randy Orton, and it's funny because Randy Orton's trying to get him to challenge him for to challenge him, and Miz refuses, and Orton just lays down the insults on not only him but Maurice as well, and just insults him because he's baiting him into getting him to agree to a matchup, and it keeps on going until Maurice just gets fed up with it, and she accepts on behalf of the Miz a non-title match. Matchup. So we see as that matchup happens, we see that the Miz it goes down in defeat to Randy Orton after 2 RKOs, just to let him know. And it was funny because Randy Orton mentioned in his promo the other night when he was talking about facing Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, as it's being advertised, that he could get down with an RKO and take him out with RKO. No, what was he saying? No additives needed, no enhancements needed. Playing a little bit of Brock for his dope dealing that he did in the dope testing that he failed in the UFC match. 2 tests he failed, and he's still not suspended. I ran about that in a minute because I feel like even though, you look at Adam Rose, you look at Billy Gunn, same things, but yet where are they at? They get fired. Billy Gunn, when he's even a competitor, he was a trainer. He gets fired from it, yet you see the cash cow Lesnar. That's why I despise Vince so much with these things, is he doesn't really treat the roster fair. I felt like if Lesnar got suspended for two tests he failed, they should suspend him at least for the SummerSlam pay-per-view, and then pretty much see where it goes from there. But then we see a vignette of showing that the American Alpha, great NXT tag team, Jordan and Gable, coming next week. Poor old Heath Slater. If you don't realize what happened in the storyline, Heath Slater didn't get drafted by Raw nor SmackDown. He's the storyline right now. He's the lone guy without a company. So we see him get mad and come out, and he demands Shane to sign him, as he is, quote, the hottest free agent in WWE. But he ends up getting gored by Rhino, who was hiding under the ring. So we see Rhino making his surprise appearance back on SmackDown. So he's coming back after the Attitude Era. So we'll see how that goes. So we end up seeing for tonight's main event. And oh yeah, Shelton Benjamin was mentioned as coming in the next few weeks back to SmackDown, which I like him. He's a great wrestler. When he was when he and let's see, Benjamin, and I can't remember the dude's name. It's leaving me right now. I remember him. I can't remember his name, but they were the world's greatest tag team. And those were with Kurt Angle. So I think that's pretty good. Maybe I'll come up with it before we end up. But it was Benjamin. Oh, Charlie Haas. Yeah, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, the world's greatest tag team. So I remember him coming back. But he was a great athlete. Came out with Brock Lesnar. Wrestled at the same college and stuff. So, great to see him coming back. We see here the six-pack challenge come into place. We see a lot of the ones that's aforementioned in it with John Cena and them coming in it, and we end up seeing the event come down to, after John Cena was hit the AA on the other four people in the matchup, we see AJ Styles hit him with the phenomenal forearm, and then that turned into a Ziggler super kick that led to a pin. So as Cena looked to be the one in control, AJ Styles comes out of nowhere, hits the phenomenal forearm, and then it turns around and Ziggler ends up getting that super kick, which I call him Shawn Michaels 2.0, and everybody will agree with that. Everybody knows how he was in this matchup, and seeing how they're turning him into Shawn Michaels with the little, now he's getting the little, no, it wasn't just the tights, now he's getting the little symbols and stuff on the tights and doing the super kick as a finisher to him along with the zigzag. So after the matchup, Ziggler's happy. I mean, maybe they're giving Ziggler a moment. He becomes the #1 contender. Ziggler probably will get some time, maybe as champion on SmackDown, which I wouldn't mind seeing him have the title. As he goes to SummerSlam to face Dean Ambrose, he goes out and gets on top of the barrier, and he's yelling and happy, and everybody's screaming and cheering for him because they're all happy to see Ziggler. I'm glad to see Ziggler get a push. Hopefully, it'll be a nice little push for him, a feud with him and Ambrose leading into SummerSlam. So while it wasn't as great as Raw, which you wouldn't expect it to, considering the roster, considering the matchups, I thought it was decent overall. Not really big, but I think they're trying to get in the right direction. Just get the creative in this on SmackDown. Give these guys lesser known pushes, and then more in the spotlight. Give them more of a push and stuff. I think they'll work out really well. Because SmackDown has always been a wrestling show, and if you've emphasized enough on SmackDown, then I think they're going to do well in the future. So, but that's all of today's events of the Raw SmackDown Live results show, 725 to 726. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and I hopefully wait to see Brandon back with us next week with another edition of TeamB Wrestling. Until next time, this is Bill Mack. Once again.